One, wait.
Henry, pleasure to see you again.
Good to see you, Connor. Hope everything's going well in England.
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. It's been about 2 or 3 months since I got back from Mexico. And for the viewers, that's where we met, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. Well, we actually met initially, as we were only saying there previously, on the airplane from Birmingham to Cancun. I actually came over. I remember that morning I had to fly from Ireland over to Birmingham and then Birmingham to Cancun. So, as you said, Connor was sitting next to my friend on the plane. We were separated, so that's how I bumped into him.
Yeah, no, the whole thing was quite kind of funny because you boys had come from Ireland over, and I met your friend on the plane first of all, and then we met just after that when you came over, didn't you, a couple of times to where we were sat.
Yeah, I was struggling with the long flight, as I was saying. It's what was it? It was 12 hours, 11, 12 hours. So had to stretch the legs a bit. But yeah, as I said, yeah, it's good. It's nice
Yeah,
always. As I
yeah.
said, everyone's in good form when they're on the airplane going over to their holidays. So everyone's fun to talk to.
Well, that's it. I mean, I don't mind a long flight 'cause I'm always going to somewhere I want to go and haven't watched a couple of films, things like that. But no, I must be honest. Because I was going by myself. I'd booked a one-way ticket to Mexico. I had no idea where I was going or how. Well, I knew I was going to Cancun, but I didn't know. I knew I wasn't going to be in Cancun very long at all. I only wanted to stay there a few days max, really. And anyway, so bumped into you boys, and I thought this is perfect start to my trip. Get talking to two good guys. We're all on the same wavelength. We were talking about how we weren't that happy with what was going on in the COVID landscape of 2021, 2021 Britain and Ireland. It was very, rigorous rules we were all following. And that's what we were trying to do. We were just escaping to Mexico for a bit of freedom, really.
Yeah, of course. As I said, it was for me personally, the COVID lockdown was really tough. It was nasty. And it's not just for me, it's not just me saying it's trying to sound selfish. It was tough for everyone. It was 2 years of complete hell, as far as I'm concerned. Now, I escaped twice, as they would say. I was in the Balkans and Eastern Europe for a little while, came back working for a while. But for me, this business of locking down everything, not being able to particularly play sports, go to bars, socialize, meet up with friends. They also had a thing in Ireland that said where you'd get arrested if you went over 2 kilometers from your house. And I remember then they did that for like a couple of months. And then they said, all right, don't worry, folks. Now you can go 5 kilometers outside your house without getting arrested. So that was really nice of them. But yeah, it was very tough. I found it really difficult. I want to be honest. I hated it. I hated every minute of it. And I wasn't
Yeah,
going to
me
put up with
too.
it. So I left. It was that simple. I went to Mexico, went to Croatia and Bosnia. And literally I was willing to go anywhere in the world. I probably literally would have went to Zimbabwe if it was the only country that was left open.
Well, if that was an option to us and Mexico wasn't, we
I would
might
have
have
went,
gone.
man.
But do,
Seriously,
do
I'm
you
not even.
remember?
I'm unironically saying this as well. I'm being deadly true. Like I would 100% have gone to literally like
Well, that's it. I
Cape
mean,
Verde,
let's get back.
anywhere.
Let's try and get into that headspace because I remember the same as you. It was a really tough time to be alive. Really, those
It
2 years
was.
because there was so much. But and also every country was closed, so you really were really short strawed on where you could go. Really, Mexico was the one that stood out as one of the better countries. And obviously, we've already got a tourism industry there. Obviously, it stopped during the pandemic, but so it was somewhere I'd always thought about going anyway. But it was never on my to-do list as such, but it was quite high to the list. But I must say, it was a fantastic country. But just to dwell, because we'll talk about all these countries, don't worry. We're gonna talk about a few countries today and our travel experiences, and also how we feel as young men in the world today.
Of course.
But also, just I just want to dwell on that headspace of I really do remember we were escaping a closed continent, really, and we were heading to somewhere that was open. So, can you remember what it was like when getting on the plane and things, and the thoughts that were going through your head at the time and things?
Yeah, look, to be honest, I was really, really angry at a lot of stuff that was going on, and I just
Yeah,
felt my life was being taken away from me.
yeah,
Just really, really, really pissed off. Like, and that's putting it mildly. As I said, even to be honest with you, even I was at home all day, me, and as I said, I moved back in with the parents, and we were all getting under each other's skin. We were annoying each other. Me and my brother were annoying each other, and look, we get on really well now. We have really good relationship. Me, my family, it's great. But that was probably the time that there was a lot of stress put on our relationship. And I was saying with everyone, there was a lot of people, inverted commas, beefing with each other in houses because you're just locked up inside all day, every day. So it was
So
tough.
many
It
families.
wasn't even healthy. It wasn't even healthy. It was
No,
just,
no, in no way was it
and
healthy. And
and I'm not
so
gonna.
many families broke up in that time, didn't they? Like
Oh
families
yeah,
were torn apart.
families were, and there was a lot of people that even I was saying, as I said, I'm from Cork, so Cork City FC is a football team I support, and there's a lot of old men particularly, and for them, every Friday to go down to watch the match, go to the pub, have a few pints, that's the only thing they have in their life. The couple of friends that they have down the pub, and then go and watch a match. And when you take away the few hobbies that people have, and you force them to stay inside their house for 2 years, people go crazy, they go mental. And um as I said, I haven't really even talked about it that much since, because I just want to move on. I pray to
Yeah,
God that it never happens again. And as I said, this is probably the first time I've really talked about it since. It's just, and I think everyone is the same, the media,
yeah,
people, no one wants to talk about it. It's just one of those things. It's like, it was a phase. It was really, really bad, and everyone just wants to move on. But I think, as you said, look, we can't forget what happened. I think questions need to be asked, and we should obviously move on positively. Everyone should
yeah.
keep on building, moving on with their lives. But it is definitely something that we should look back and say, was that necessary? What were the figures they were saying before? As I said, not to go on a huge rant, but in Ireland and the WHO, when the pandemic originally started, I'll be honest, I was very concerned, because they came out and they said that if you got COVID, and this is the WHO, this is not me saying it, this is what they said. They said there's a 4.5% chance you're going to die if you get COVID. So I was thinking to myself, oh my word,
Was this
we are
back
in trouble.
2020? Was this kind of March
That was March
2020?
2020, yeah, when it
Yeah.
initially started. So obviously, if there's a 4.5% chance you're going to die if you get it, it's a
Mhm.
respiratory virus. It spreads very easily. If that was
Yeah,
the case,
airborne virus. Yeah.
I, pal, I'd be in my attic right now probably. But that didn't turn out to be the case. It turned out that it was like less than zero point 0.2. So initially, day one, they were like 40 times wrong in terms of the death rate. And no one ever asked that question. I never heard many journalists asking the politicians that, you came out, said this initially, it hasn't turned out to be true. So you obviously have to change your policies in it. But anyway, look, I could go on about it for hours. I don't want to. I want to move on. But as I said, we have to remember as well what's happened, and you have to learn from the past as well.
Henry, yeah, certainly. Um it's been a huge thing in all of our lives, and nobody can move on from something like that overnight. And
No.
it needs grieving over, really. It
Yeah.
needs to be dissected and looked at. And like you say, we're not going to talk about it all podcast. We didn't even really I think we had like a 5 minutes at the end to talk about it, didn't we, in our little schedule?
Yeah.
We didn't
Yeah.
even really schedule to talk about it. I'm glad we did. I think that was a really good, honest chat.
Yeah.
And we both could say a lot more about it, but let's face it, um, we're happy to be where we are now in a free and open society where we're building again. Even though we're heading into a recession, we can all see we're doing a hell of a lot more work in this year than we've done in the previous two. So no, we're all in a good positive frame of mind from that perspective. And
Totally.
yeah, totally. So, well, we were talking about Mexico. I think we'll jump back to that because I've got hundreds of opinions on coronavirus. We're going to hear about them over the next 6 months, I'm sure, and going on. But yeah, and we might even pop back into it again in this podcast. But yeah, like back to Mexico. I think that's it. That was a very true and honest statement. I was talking about because I remember how I felt. Well, not totally, but I can feel those memories. I really had a lot of baggage going to Mexico,
Yeah.
and Mexico, I must be honest, cleared the whole thing because I was there, as I say, for 4 or 4 months, and it was a great break. Really de-stressed me, and I just felt alive again after it. And COVID had sent me to sleep a bit, really. But I knew I had to go, and I did the right thing in going. But I do remember that feeling of just being like very excited to go, and a little scared as well, because I'm 33 now. It's not as easy as when you're 24 and whatever. Well, how old are you? How old are you, Henry?
26, born 1995.
26. Yeah, and I'm 33, 1989, and it does get a bit harder every time you get a bit older, especially going by yourself, as I was. But also, pandemic knocks you a bit, so I was in that sense of reeling a bit from the pandemic.
Well, as I said, with the age thing, as I said, I went initially, as I said, I went in 2019. I was actually in Brazil and Uruguay and Paraguay and Argentina. I was there for about 6 months, 7 months, and I did my South America. I always was interested in South America. It was somewhere I wanted to go. I went there, had a super time. As I said, we could probably go into more detail at some stage, but had a great time down there. And then I came back home, and that was, as I said, I was probably 22 at the time, came back like 23. And I thought, that's it now. I'm going to come home, I'm going to settle down, I'm going to move on with my life. Bang, as I came back, and then only about 6, 7 months later, all the COVID stuff hit. And then I was like, right. Like, because I had said that was going to be my big life adventure. I'm not probably ever going to do something like that again. But then it happened, as I said, COVID was a spanner in the works, and it ended up being another opportunity to go down to South America. And I must say, I do genuinely really like South America. Now, to be honest with you, the reason I chose Mexico was because there was no restrictions there. That was the only reason, really. If everywhere were to be open, I would have preferred to go to Argentina or Brazil, down that neck of the woods. But as I said, look, I don't regret going to Mexico. It was definitely the correct decision at the time. It was open, it was free, and it was actually the only place in the world that never really implemented these extreme lockdowns. And I think the WHO wasn't happy at Mexican government for that. But fair play to them. And as I said, look, the Mexican and a lot of these poorer countries, particularly, you look in Sri Lanka now, what's happening, these countries, you need to remember, they don't have social welfare systems like we do in the West. They don't have deep pockets. Their governments can't just go and borrow billions because they don't have the capacity to pay them back. So when these countries do lockdowns, it's even more severe, because not only is it the mental, everyone pissed off, etc. Financially, the government can't even support the people. So when they do lockdowns in poorer countries, they just lock you down, and the government doesn't even give you any social welfare money. So I suppose if there's any silver lining from the West, at least people were given some sort of money. Not that that's really much of a consolidation for myself, but it's in Mexico, if they were to have done it, it would have been even tougher for people over there than in
Well, Henry, this is going well off script, and I'm so happy about it. What we'll do is we'll dwell on the coronavirus for another 5 minutes, and then I think we'll stop part one, because I want to talk about the traveling as well and have that a bit sectioned off. But
of course,
like I totally agree. Like, I was so shocked. I've got friends all over the world. I was so shocked to hear that the very poor countries, i.e. the Philippines, i.e. Thailand, i.e. South America, and even the African countries, they were closing down. It's like, this is absolute madness. They won't, after a few weeks, they won't be able to live. These people are living hand to mouth. And there's not, like you say, there's no social network support. There's no, what do they call it? Social welfare.
No safety net.
Yeah. So
there's
they're
people
just literally dying, and a lot of people will have died. And as we know now, there's been
there was
no
millions starved to death over the COVID lockdown pandemic in particularly third world countries. And it's something that hasn't really been reported, hasn't been documented on, but it's something that's happened, and that's the reality. And there's hundreds of thousands of businesses, people that have gone completely broke and on brink of starvation in these countries as a result directly of the COVID policies, which is, for those individuals and those families, it's shocking. My heart goes out to them, and God bless them. You look at Sri Lanka now, their economy's gone to the dumps. But as you said, anyway, look, it is what it is. I'm sure people can tell out there what we think about it. If we have a few beers, I'm sure they know what we're going to be talking about it. But anyway, look, as you said, it is good to get into the travel, because as you said, you're talking about Cancun, and I was only going to say that when we arrived at the airport, the one thing I would like to say to people is, this Uber taxi minibus pricing
Oh yeah.
situation. It's a wild west out there, boys and girls. It is a wild west.
Oh, from what sense?
Well, I was saying, I remember when we arrived yourself, we were saying, right, we're going to get a taxi or a
No, I
minibus
was
or
saying we'll
something
get a
into the
bus.
city.
I'm
Sorry?
from Yorkshire. I was saying we'll get a bus because I'm from Yorkshire.
Yeah.
Would
Well,
be.
that's it. Well, I remember you have the bus, and they see you coming off the plane, fresh off the plane, and they're saying, right, you're saying how much is it into the city, and they say $50, and then you see someone else next to you is getting it for $20. There's no prices there. It's
Yeah.
it's whatever you
No,
can
that was a
haggle, and
funny. That was
that's
a
something
funny
that a lot of
moment.
people get caught out on. And I did once
Yeah.
or twice initially, but you learn quick because they will clean you out financially even quicker than the tax man over here will clean you out.
Well, like I think we were quite lucky, really, because first of all, was there only three of us, wasn't there? There was just the three of us had met. There wasn't somebody else, but there was three of us in the taxi, so that was a good starting point.
Yeah.
I think we paid 750 pesos, which I would say was about 100 over what we should have paid. But for having three people in the taxi, I think it worked out quite well. But we didn't know these things, you see, so we were trying. I was saying, let's get it for 500, and like stuff like which wasn't.
I remember.
It probably was possible, but wasn't realistic at the airport. But no, it was a funny start to the journey. I do remember we were kind of having a bit of a laugh. We really were excited for getting to Mexico, weren't we?
Oh yeah, look, as I
Well,
said, there's nothing
Cancun City,
beats
so.
there's nothing beats when when you're on the airplane, you're going across to Mexico or any sort of, particularly outside of Europe, when you're going to South America or
Exotic.
anywhere outside of Europe, you're just, when you land, you're just saying, oh my word. And as I said, I
Yeah,
must say
yeah,
the drive from from Cancun airport into the hotel zone was phenomenal. The
yeah,
scenery, the beaches are just it's like a postcard. It's like a video game or something, and you're then living there. It's like Grand Theft Auto San Andreas or something, when you're going down that boulevard or whatever, and you're seeing these hotels. And even another thing is, I was saying, the cars, they are huge American cars over there. I've never seen cars that big in my life. And all the buildings and everything is just massive. Everything is just triple the size
yeah.
of anything we have back home. It's great. Even like you get
That,
food, you get a Coca-Cola. It's just huge. Everything's massive over there. It's crazy. It's fun.
it is like San Andreas Vice City, and yeah, like it's fun. Everything's oversized, and like you say, instantly you knew getting out of that airport, you're suddenly in a tropical climate. The sun's out, obviously. You've been on a 10-hour flight from January's
Oh,
Western Europe. You know what I mean? It'd been freezing. We got there, an instant change, and your mood changes instantly, and you're very aware that the culture's completely different as well. So it's a big culture shock, a big body shock, but we've all done it a few times. Well, me and you've done it a few times, so we know what it's like. But it's such a magical feeling. It's like
oh
walking through
yeah.
Narnia's wardrobe.
Yeah, nothing compares to it. And yeah, you're excited, you're looking forward to it. And it's always, the first couple of days are great. And as I said, we went out, a few beers, good fun, nice
Yeah.
nightlife there. And it's really, it's the same as I said when I was in remember the previous time I flew into Rio de Janeiro from London. I remember when I think it was 22, 23. And it's funny now, I'm looking back, because generally, when you come home, you just want to kind of settle down, and you almost don't want to think about it too much, because it's too good. It like is going to be like, oh, I can't really reach that high anymore. But as I said, I remember when I landed in Rio de Janeiro, and I got a taxi, I got an Uber from Rio de Janeiro airport to my hotel, and I was just saying, like, this is paradise. This is like, these places, genuinely, I don't think people realize that in places like Rio and Cancun, if you have money over there, it is literally paradise. It's unbelievable. You can do anything, and it's beaches, clubs, bars, the weather, tropical climate, coconut trees. It's phenomenal. Like, it's
You can have
so
a
it's so nice once you got a few quid. Like,
you can stay in a world-class resort out there for $100, really,
yeah, and
a night.
it's unbelievable. Like, I remember we were me and the friend, we were staying in I think it was Casa Maya was the hotel, and we stayed there for a week. I remember when we initially got there,
House
and
of
it
the
was,
Mayan.
yeah, it was so nice, the hotel. As I said, they had a swimming pool, heated swimming pool, breakfast in the morning, and the hotel was on the beach, and the hotel owned that area of the beach, and then they had activities during the day. So we were playing volleyball during the day. They had a volleyball tournament every day at 3 o'clock. So I went down there every day, and I tell you, volleyball is actually more difficult than what you think. Like, it's not actually as easy, but just you're living life. That's what it's about. You're
I
balling.
mean, it's
You're really
a
balling
class
when you're down there.
environment. Class environment. I mean, I'll just tell you my volleyball story quickly. So obviously living in Bradford in the centre of England, growing up, you don't play much volleyball. And anyway, when I was about 20, I went on holiday with my mom. And where was it now? It was Fuerteventura so in the Canary Islands. And so every day they had activities. They had football, they had volleyball, things like that. I played pretty well. I was 20 at the time. I could actually run then. So I did all right at the football. So they kind of knew me as the English guy who could play football. There was lots of Germans there, lots of Spanish there, and different races. So there wasn't much English speakers. So we just kind of got on through playing and whatever else. So anyway, when we played the volleyball, the Germans are like world class at every bloody thing they do, but they're awesome at volleyball, obviously. And so they were just whacking it up and just doing everything. And I couldn't,
Yeah.
I could barely get to it. I was like slapping it and trying whatever I could. Anyway, so whenever the ball went down, they kept saying Schade. Now I don't know any. At the time I had no German, so but I thought I understood what they'd said. So whenever I missed the ball, I was saying Scheiße.
Oh,
Now the difference is Schade means sorry, and Scheiße obviously means shit. So I was just swearing every time I missed it. I was like Scheiße, and, they were all just saying sorry, but I just kept going, oh Scheiße.
oh boy. Well,
So
look,
that was
that's what
my
it's all about. Bit of banter. These holidays are always they're always a bit of fun, bit of banter.
I was a very naive 20-year-old, and that was, to be honest, that was my first time really. Well, I'd been on a lads' holiday to Malia in Greece, but that was one of my first holidays to a more adventurous place, I suppose, to the Canary Islands. So yeah, I was very green, and it was good experiences.
That's what I'm saying. You always look back, and you look back on these things, and you always maybe at the time you were maybe a bit embarrassed or something, but you look back and who cares? Like, it was fun, you had a good time, and that's what it's all about. And as I said, I think you were saying even earlier about the age thing. Like, honestly, like, people don't realize. I used to think. I remember when I was younger, like, if you reach this age, you have to be doing this thing, and
Oh yeah,
obviously, look, I'm
yeah.
not saying don't take life seriously like that. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that generally people they don't really care that much about your age. It's actually not like, if you play, let's say, for a football team, the person that scores the goal, they see the name, they don't really care about the age. So it's the same with anything. If you I don't know, you need to get a painter to your house, and who cares about what age they are? You just, once they
Yeah.
do a good job, and that's all you care about. So yeah, I think sometimes there's something in people's head. There was another guy, an older guy in Playa del Carmen that I met, and he was actually a British guy as well. Now, it's funny because I actually lost my phone, so I had all my bloody contacts on my phone. I lost it. I've bought this new one, and it's a disaster because you lose all these contacts over the years. So now I wrote down a list of everyone's number, so I'll have it for future reference. But anyway, this guy was, I think he was like 51. And he was saying that he went traveling a couple of years previous, and he was really nervous about going into hostels and stuff at his age. But you just move on, and he was fine. He says I don't even know now why I was so worried about it. So it's all in the head. Everything, a lot of things in life are in the head. Now, okay, fair enough. If you're in your 50s and 60s and you're clubbing, possibly a bit inappropriate. But again, if that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. But probably personally wouldn't. But
Well, no, I loved what you just said there, and there's a lot of truth to it. But I must say, I can because I remember having, let's say there's 3 stages of it. I'm just making this up, by the way. But the first stage is when you're naive and young, and you worry too much about external things and things like age that aren't such a big issue. You do worry about a bit more. Then there's the second stage, probably where you're in now, where you've had the realization stage of what the truth is, that, oh, age isn't a big deal. But I must say as well, now coming to 33, you do start to realize a lot of friends have got married. A lot of friends can't go out as much. And I'm single and 33 and things like that. And I still travel. So I'm very in a unique bracket, really. There's not that many people who are in that kind of category. So, and it's looking forward as well. So for a woman at my age, and not to be sexist, but if you were planning a family, that's going to be a you'd have to start really thinking about you settling down really at this stage, which it would be a challenge. And the same for me. I have the same considerations, just with about maybe an extra 5 years potential. So meaning that I could have a child at 40 kind of thing or whatever. So, safely or whatever. I don't know what the term is, but so I guess I can see it from all those three different points, and that the young one is the least accurate really, because it's like, you think you're really just too bothered about everything really at a young age. Well, I was anyway.
Well, I think as you said, look, the most important thing is to organize yourself and to organize your life and organize what you want. Like, look, if you're a person like myself and, you want to have a bit of fun, you want to do a bit of traveling and all that, that's fine. But obviously, you need the spondoodles to do that. So as I said, when you start working earlier on and stuff, save your money, try and invest it a bit if you can. If you can get your hand on property, that's always great. And it's so generally it's a very safe investment. Even like even crypto, I made a few quid on that, and even stocks and shares, whatever. But it said, look, in life, you work hard, you're sensible, you can live a good life, but you need to just organize yourself properly. And a big thing, I'm sounding like people's mums here, but the silly spending, you got to cut it out. Like people out there, for instance, you've got people out there that are getting car loans for like 50, 60 grand and stuff. And it's like that money, and then you have to obviously pay the interest on it for a number of years, like 5-6 years. This can be like 100, 200 euros every single week for the next 5-6 years. You got to pay just to have a fancy car. That money could literally travel around South America for like 3 years. You could travel around South America. Like, traveling is not actually even that expensive. I said I was probably 6 months in South America, in Argentina, Brazil, had probably the best time of my life, genuinely. And honestly, the whole thing cost me, let's say, under 10 grand. That's not that. That's actually not that much for 6 months of balling. I'm on beaches drinking coconut water and stuff. Like, come on, this is serious life. Like, and it's like 10 grand. And then people out there spending 50, 60 grand on a car. I know what I prefer.
Totally. I think you just hit a nail on the head there. A lot of people, are they really weighing up their life choices that they're making? Because I'm sure it's nice to have a 60 grand motor. Let's be honest. But what is that doing for your life? Is that giving you true happiness? I think ultimately the answer is no. It might give you some momentary happiness, but it's not going to give you that deep happiness. Now, again, traveling, we could debate that. You could say, well, does traveling give you meaningful happiness? Me and you could both answer that as a yes.
Oh, yeah.
But you know what I mean? But I mean, when it gives you things, it teaches you, well, every day is such an amazing experience on traveling, but it is an interesting thought to kind of weigh up. What do you want to do with your life? Where do you want to go? Not totally. Just go, but go metaphorically. What do you want to achieve?
Well, you see, the thing is like, when you're working, because everyone out there that's working, they're working hard. You're getting up early in the morning, you're working hard, you're putting in graft. It's tough. Sometimes you're listening to crap from maybe your boss or your coworkers. So, you want to work towards something. And for me, I want to work towards, having some time off and having a fun time and holidays and stuff. Whereas, other people, maybe they want to work towards getting a brand new BMW. And that's fine. If that's what you want to do, that's cool. But honestly, man, like it's a car. Like, I'm sorry, but like, it's just a car. Like, I don't know, maybe it's just me. I don't know. Some people genuinely, they love spending a lot of money on luxury cars. Just as one example, there's loads of other examples, but for me, like, the traveling is, you can't go wrong. But as I said, the one thing that you realize when you go traveling and you go to Brazil or Argentina or anywhere South America particularly, all the other people are generally of the similar mindset to you. That's why they're doing it. They're people that prefer to spend money on maybe going to Rio de Janeiro And as I said, some of the things you see over there, like the Christ the Redeemer, the Americana football stadium, unbelievable, unbelievable. And the people are so nice, honestly. Like honestly, I must say, people treated me so good down there. You know, I you know yourself, you made some good friends down there as well. You know.
Yeah. No, definitely. I mean, just thinking now, because I'm in Leeds at the moment in the UK, and I went to not travel exchange, a language exchange. But obviously, so many Brazilians were there, so many Spanish speakers were there, a few English speakers, a few Asian people from China or Korea. So it was a really good experience. But what you just said was key, like-minded. These are people who are going places, they've experienced different cultures. They don't just have a singular mindset of this is the way things are and this is the way they have to be. They know that, no, it's different there, it's different there. And actually, I prefer it like this. Is there somewhere where I can find that happy medium? So it's good to speak to people like that. This is where ideas can come forth from. And it's just a good experience, isn't it? You meet people like-minded who have the crack.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and there are people that, you know, put themselves out there. They said when I went to Brazil the first time, I went down by myself, booked the one-way ticket, and you know, some people maybe are looking at you saying, "Genie, this guy's is he on drugs or what the hell's the story?" But it wasn't the case. And I said when I went down there, you go to a hostel, you bump into about 5 people looking at going on a night out the night you arrive, and you've instantly got like 5 best mates, and it's great. Like it really is. It's great, and I really advise it people. But as I said, you know, you can move on to other topics and stuff, but obviously I think in the future, with the way things are going here in Ireland, I'm sure in the UK, cost of living and all this, it is going to be more and more difficult. And that's what I think is that, you know, people that have done a bit of traveling stuff, they should really appreciate it, because it is a luxury and not everyone gets to do it. So it's definitely something you need to appreciate. And it's something that not everyone's going to be able to do, and particularly now going into the future. You know, you're looking at even they're saying the electricity and gas costs per house. Let's say each house in Ireland is going to have to spend an extra 1 or 2 grand every year, which again will cover you like a month in Cancun or something. And they're going to spend that in just electricity and gas alone. So cost of living stuff is it's going to start hitting people in the face. You know.
Getting really crazy. And I must be honest, I've always thought about other countries. Like I was in Australia for 2 years, loved it. I could see myself living out there, you know what I mean? So I've always weighed up, well, how is Australia compared to the UK? How is Mexico compared to South Korea? Whatever it is. With the cost of living going the way it's going, that really is a big challenge. And I know it's global, but when it's gone up from, £500 to £1,500 a month,
Yeah.
that's
It's tough.
intolerable. But when it's gone up from, say, £100 or whatever you want to go, €100, wherever it is, to 300 or whatever, that's more manageable. Yes, it's still biting you in the ass, but it's more manageable. And yeah, I must be honest, that kind of change in the world, because wages aren't going up comparatively. We know that, especially not
No.
in the UK, I can say that. So it really is making our countries less, what's the word? Less,
It's less attractive.
yeah.
Just a general lower standard of living, which is, you know, obviously you want to improve people's standard of living. Always, that's the objective, I suppose, of as you move forward for the world. Always, you know, every 100 years you want to improve, and
Yeah.
you want people to live easier lives, better lives. And unfortunately, at the minute, it seems to be a little bit reverse. But yeah, that's just it's just something unfortunate. And as I said, a lot of people now, you're noticing, particularly in America and in Mexico City, apparently there's a lot of Americans that are working from home, and there's so many of them moving to South America. Like it's insane. Even in I was in Serbia and Belgrade, and there's so many you know, Brits, Australians, and Irish and stuff, and they're working from home and they've moved over there. And honestly, it's a great idea. As I said, like my friend, as I said, when we were traveling, he was working from home the whole time. So even if you can get a decent job working from home and you can
Yeah.
move to one of
Yeah.
these cheaper countries, it's unbelievable, because you live the best of both worlds. You're still
Yeah.
getting a good wage, and
Yeah.
you know,
A
accommodation
better
problems over
lifestyle.
there. You get
Yeah. A better
accommodation in
lifestyle.
Cancun easy.
Well, that's it. It's a better lifestyle. Like you say, your accommodation is way better. I mean, that's it. There's also the flip side to that coin, and I think you were thinking it as well. I could tell you were thinking it, that, you know, one of the issues is that when we're immigrating, or, you know, immigration from the, I hate this term, but first world to kind of a second world or whatever, it's pushing up house prices. Well, it's kind of not artificially, but it's
Yeah, it's
inflating
true.
the
Yeah.
house prices, which causes problems for the locals. And let's face it, we're facing that in our own countries. Nobody can really afford to buy in London at our age.
Yeah.
But anyway, moving on from those negative points, we do know they exist. At the end of the day, you can't bother yourself with every little problem in the world.
No.
You've got to make it work for you. And if that's what's going to work for you, being in that place, you're not the sole reason why something is going up. So don't take it all on board. You know, you've got to live your life the best you can. But no, on your point, totally true. I would advise anyone, if you're thinking of doing it, weigh it up, make sure there's options out there. Again, income, or do you have money saved? That's key. If you do, why not? What are the reasons why you shouldn't do it? And weigh them up. And if there aren't many, I would say go and do it, because I've had nothing but good experiences. If you plan a little, and you don't even have to plan a lot. I didn't plan Mexico that much. If you plan a little, it'll see you through nicely. So that would be my advice. I mean, just to wrap us up then, Henry, on this first part, we'll do another part as well if you don't mind.
Yeah.
But just to wrap us up on part one, could you give us like a nice conclusion on why people should travel, or how you feel about people traveling?
Yeah, I was just going to say, sorry, this recording from this thing is going to stop now in literally like 10 seconds. So we'll have to just do another thing, and you can just mush them all up together.
Well, we can talk about what I just asked you in the next one. So great
Yeah,
to
yeah.
see you again.
I'm just going to
Thanks for
wait.
joining me, Henry.
Yeah, no, I'll